I give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Mohammed Al-Atiq, Deputy Permanent Representative of the United Nations, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, to deliver his welcoming remarks. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Excellency, for this introduction, and it's a pleasure to be among you to give our insights and to focus on King Salman's Relief Center. I would like to start this with a speech that it will be in Arabic. So if you allow me, I'll start now. أصحاب السعادة، سيدات والسادة، تعد قضية النزوح المطول قضية عالمية مهمة تستدعي التنسيق والتعاون العالمي لإيجاد حلول دائمة لمساعدة النازحين، خاصة خلال هذا الوقت العصيب الذي يشهد فيه العالم تلك الأزمات الصحية والاقتصادية المتفاقمة من تبعات جائحة كوفيد-19. أيها السادة، نشهد اليوم حجم الآثار المروعة التي تخلفها جائحة كوفيد-19 أينما أثقلت وطأتها. تلك الآثار التي شكلت ولا زالت تشكل تهديداً خطيراً على حياة الإنسان وظروفه المعيشية، وخاصة على أولئك النازحين والمهجرين الذين يقبعون تحت وطأة ظروف قاهرة قد امتدت ببعضهم لعقود من الزمن. الأمر الذي يستلزم تضافر الجهود الدولية والتنسيق لحماية الأفراد الأكثر تهميشاً وهشاشة في المجتمع، حيث إن تضافر الجهود الدولية وتفعيل التعاون المشترك سيولد حتماً حلولاً شاملة ودائمة وسيمكننا من الاستجابة للأزمات الطارئة والعمل الاستباقي لاحتوائها ومعالجتها قبل أن تضع أثقالها على المناطق والفئات الأشد حاجة. الحضور الكريم، لعله لا يخفى عليكم أهمية الدور الرئيسي للحكومات بالتعاون المشترك واللصيق مع المنظمات والهيئات الدولية المختلفة في سبيل تقليص آثار الجائحة على النازح وتعزيز المساعدات الإنسانية وتفعيل الأنشطة طويلة الأمد والتي تدعم تعزيز الحلول الدائمة للقضايا المتعلقة بالنزوح. واسمحوا لي هنا أن ألقي الضوء على تجربة المملكة العربية السعودية الرائدة ودورها الإنساني الذي تؤديه على المستويين المحلي والدولي، انطلاقا من إيمان قيادتها الرشيدة بحقوق الإنسان في شتى المجالات. فالمملكة تحرص على إغاثة الملهوف ومساعدة المحتاجين، وتقوم بدور إنساني كبير في تكثيف الجهود حول دعم النازحين وتخفيف مشكلة اللجوء التي تعاني منها مناطق عديدة في العالم، والناتجة من الصراعات العرقية والحروب والكوارث والنزاعات. وتتعاون المملكة مع العديد من المنظمات والهيئات بهدف التركيز على تحسين الوصول إلى الخدمات الأساسية وتلبية جميع احتياجات النازحين على أراضيها، حيث تساهم المملكة في تخفيف معاناة الملايين من النازحين والمهجرين من خلال التعامل معهم كزائرين ودمجهم ضمن أفراد المجتمع حفاظاً على كرامتهم وسلامتهم ومنحهم حرية الحركة التامة. كما تم اتخاذ العديد من التدابير اللازمة لمساعدتهم في الاستقرار داخل المملكة، ومن ذلك منح من أراد البقاء منهم في المملكة الإقامة النظامية أسوة بباقي المقيمين بكل ما يترتب عليها من حقوق الرعاية الصحية المجانية، إضافة إلى دعم ورعاية الملايين من النازحين واللاجئين في دول أخرى بالتنسيق مع حكومات تلك الدول المضيفة لهم، وكذلك من خلال دعم الجهود الدولية والإقليمية والتعاون بشكل دؤوب ومستمر مع منظمات الإغاثة الإنسانية الدولية، سواء من خلال الدعم المادي أو المعنوي. وقد أشادت المفوضية السامية للأمم المتحدة لشؤون اللاجئين في عام 2015 بتجربة المملكة العربية السعودية في ذلك، مؤكدة أنها تجربة رائدة يمكن الاستفادة منها وتعميمها على الدول الأخرى. كما أسهمت المملكة ممثلة بمركز الملك سلمان للإغاثة والأعمال الإنسانية في دعم النازحين في مختلف دول العالم من خلال العمل مع منظمة الأمم المتحدة ووكالاتها ومنظمات الدولية ومؤسسات المجتمع المدني على تنسيق المساعدات المقدمة إلى النازحين، مع التركيز على تحسين الوصول إلى الخدمات الأساسية بما فيها التعليم والرعاية الصحية والاجتماعية وتلبية الاحتياجات الإنسانية العاجلة للنازحين والمجتمعات المضيفة لهم والسكان المحاصرين، وتوفير المأوى ومكافحة الكوارث وتوفير الأمن الغذائي. كما سعت المملكة لتعزيز القدرة على صمود هؤلاء اللاجئين من خلال دعم سبل معيشتهم وتعزيز حصولهم على التدريب وفرص العمل ودعم تطوير الأعمال والتنسيق مع الجهات ذات الاختصاص للوصول إلى المساعدة أو الخدمات الأساسية لاستخراج الوثائق اللازمة والحد من الآثار الاجتماعية والنفسية الناتجة عن الانفصال الأسري. أود هنا أن أثمن دور مركز الملك سلمان للإغاثة والأعمال الإنسانية، والذي تترجم أعماله حرص حكومة المملكة على دعم الجهود الدولية المبذولة في سبيل إنهاء أزمة النازحين، وحرصها على التعاون المشترك مع المنظمات الدولية في السعي لإيجاد حلول دائمة ومستمرة للحد وإنهاء حركات النزوح المستمرة. في الختام، السيدات والسادة الكرام، اسمحوا لي أخيراً أن أؤكد على أهمية تحمل مسؤوليتنا الجماعية عبر اتخاذ التدابير اللازمة لمعالجة أزمة النزوح والهجرة المستمرة والحد من تفاقمها، والنظر بجدية إلى الآثار المترتبة عليها على المجتمعات والبلدان، والعمل سوياً على تكثيف الجهود في دعم الآليات والقوانين التي تساهم في حفظ حقوق النازح ومساعدته على العودة لموطنه وبيته، وبأن يعيش الاستقرار الذي يستحقه ويحتاجه. فتجربته في البعد عن موطنه وبيته واستقراره وأمنه يولد هاجساً وقلقاً مؤلماً عالمياً. أتمنى لكم لقاء مثمراً، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your remarks and for also shedding the light of a very important initiatives being implemented by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Before heading over to panelists, I would like to provide brief opening remarks to both set the scene and outline the structure of the session. So if you allow me, I will start by giving a few comments. Excellencies, this event is crucial and timely. At the end of 2020, an estimated 55 million people were internally displaced across the world. This figure has grown exponentially from an estimated 26.4 million only 10 years ago in 2011. In the Middle East and North Africa region, around 11.8 million people are living as IDPs as a result of conflict and violence. At the end of 2020, while in the East Africa and Horn of Africa region, there were an estimated 6.5 million IDPs. Many countries across both regions remain chronically affected by natural hazards, including disasters or protracted conflict, creating new waves of forced displacement and exacerbating existing humanitarian needs. Within this context, climate change and environmental degradation are increasingly becoming threat multipliers, acting as significant drivers of forced migration and displacement. The situation is struck. Millions of internally displaced persons confront substantial obstacles in bringing their displacement to a sustainable end, with protracted and secondary displacement now a major and growing phenomenon. Ladies and gentlemen, as I hand over to our expert panelists in support of the comments of His Excellency, Mr. Mohammed Al-Atiq, I want to set the scene by acknowledging patterns of displacement are by default complex and dynamic. This calls for all actors to move beyond a fill the gap or one-size-fits-all approach to displacement prevention, management, and resolution towards engendering solutions that respond to the unique interplay between factors that contribute to the displacement dynamics. These solutions are only achievable if a multidimensional impacts of displacement and the relationship between them are well understood, as these, whether social, economic, environmental, or infrastructural, can either limit opportunities to achieve solutions or contribute to recurrent crisis and displacement. We must recognize our obligations to ensure accountability to affected populations. This can only be achieved through the development of a robust system that enables us to listen to and account for their preferences and voices during the planning, design, implementation, and evaluation of our policy and programming efforts to resolve displacement. Now more than ever, it is critical to work across the humanitarian development peace nexus through strengthened collaborations, coherence, and complementarity between different actors. Capitalizing on our comparative advantages, this entails scaling up and responding to people's immediate humanitarian needs while also trying to simultaneously address the drivers of vulnerability through promoting resilience, reducing disaster risk, and encouraging social cohesion and peace building at the local level. It is only through the synergized approach across the humanitarian development and peace nexus that we will ensure the attainment of sustainable development goals and prevent displaced population who remain some of the most vulnerable globally from being left behind. Distinguished guests and colleagues, the panel comprises experts and specialists from governments, the United Nations system, and donor organizations. Through this composition, we hope to engender a rich and dynamic discussion where various vantage points of difference across our while various vantage points of different actors are clear and complementarities can be identified and strengthened. It is my pleasure to introduce you to your panel in alphabetical order. Mr. Ali Ahmed, Director of the Information Management and Data Exchange Department, Joint Crisis Coordination Center, Ministry of Interior, Kurdistan Regional Government. Dr. Muhammad Saleh Yassin, First Undersecretary, Minister of Federal Governance, Republic of Sudan. Dr. Hana Omar, Director, Community Support Department, King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Center. And Dr. Sebastian Einsedel, Senior Advisor on Internal Displacement, United Nations Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA. In order of introduction, I now invite our estimated panelists to provide their opening remarks outlining their engagement in advancing durable solutions to displacement. I invite them to highlight the challenges and successes they have experienced in the search for coordination of and delivery of responses targeting those experiences protracted displacement. Lessons learned in regard to how the challenges and opportunities can be managed and resolved, and their thoughts on where attention and energies are required to move closer to the identification of or deliver of durable solutions. I also invite them to speak to the mobility dimensions to resolving displacement. I will hand over to the panelists. Each of our distinguished panelists will have 5 minutes for their opening remarks. And after that, there will be some question session by the moderator. So without further ado, I will give the floor to Mr. Ali Ahmed. Mr. Ali, the floor is yours.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. باسم وزارة الداخلية ومركز تنسيق الأزمات المشترك، أود أن أرحب بالجميع وأتمنى الموفقية والنجاح لأعمال مؤتمرنا هذا الافتراضي. كما ومن الضروري أن أقدم بالشكر الجزيل على القائمين بتسهيل أمور انعقاد المؤتمر من إخواننا في مركز الملك سلمان لإغاثة الأعمال الإنسانية، وأيضا أقدم بالشكر الجزيل إلى السادة لمنظمة الهجرة الدولية IOM لدعوتهم الكريمة. نحن على تواصل يومي ودائم مع الهجرة الدولية في أكثر من ملف إنساني، وخاصة ملفي النازحين واللاجئين. بصراحة العراق وإقليم كردستان كجزء من الدولة العراقية يمر بأزمات كثيرة، وخاصة في ملف النازحين واللاجئين. أركز هنا على ملف النازحين العراقيين الذين نزحوا من مناطق سكناهم في باقي المحافظات العراقية إلى إقليم كردستان، وسكنوا المحافظات الثلاثة أربيل العاصمة، وأيضا محافظة سليمانية ومحافظة دهوك. وبعد ذلك أشير إلى ملف النازحين في أي مرحلة، وماذا قدم الحكومة العراقية بالتنسيق مع الحكومات المحلية، وماذا عن دور حكومة إقليم كردستان، وماذا عن دور المجتمع الدولي، وماذا عند المتطلبات المرحلة الراهنة، وكيف يمكن لنا أن نساعد ونكون جزء من الحل لاسترجاع هؤلاء الناس إلى أراضيهم الأصلية وإلى مناطقهم الأصلية التي نزحوا منها طوال السنوات السابقة. شكرا جزيلا، وإن شاء الله يعني عندما يكون السؤال إلينا والدور يأتي إلينا سأوضح النقاط وأيضا الإحصائيات الرسمية التي يعمل عليه المركز بالتنسيق والتعاون مع شركائنا الدوليين والمحليين أيضا في العراق وإقليم كردستان. شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا جزيلا لك سيد علي. والآن ننتقل للدكتور محمد صالح ياسين. دكتور تفضل.
مرحبا والسلام عليكم. صباح الخير لمن كان هم في الصباح، ومساء الخير لمن هم في المساء، وسعيدين بوجودنا معكم، ونشكر مركز الملك سلمان والأمم المتحدة على هذه الفرصة الجيدة والتي تصب في جهود المجتمع الدولي عموما في إيجاد الحلول الدائمة والمستدامة لقضايا النازحين واللاجئين والمجتمعات المستضيفة لهم في كل العالم. نحن في السودان نشهد تحولات عظيمة بفضل ثورة ديسمبر المجيدة، والتي أوقفت كبرى مسببات النزوح واللجوء للسودانيين، وهي الحرب التي كانت تدور في السودان. ومنذ ديسمبر في 2018 كانت هناك ثورة عظيمة توقفت بسببها الحرب، وفي 3 أكتوبر من العام المنصرم تم توقيع اتفاق سلام، اتفاق جوبا لسلام السودان، والذي بموجبه سوف تكون هناك حلول ممكنة للعديد من القضايا والتحديات التي تواجه كل اللاجئين والنازحين السودانيين، اللاجئين بالخارج والسودانيين النازحين داخليا، بالإضافة إلى مشاكل أيضا تتعلق بالدول الجوار من المحيط الإقليمي، وخاصة فيما يلي اللاجئين من الدول المجاورة للسودان كإثيوبيا وإريتريا وجمهورية أفريقيا الوسطى وتشاد، وأيضا جنوب السودان والصومال. ونعلم جيدا أن السودان يستضيف عددا مقدرا من اللاجئين وطالبي اللجوء، ما يفوق 1.3 أو 1 أو ما يزيد من هذا العدد. بالإضافة إلى ذلك أن ولايات السودان 18 كلها تستضيف أعداد مقدرة من اللاجئين المسجلين. مثلا في ولاية الخرطوم لدينا أكثر من 305 ألف لاجئ، معظمهم يعني مسجلين، والغالبية العظمى غير مسجلين. كما يستضيف ولاية النيل الأبيض أيضا عدد مغدر يفوق 286 ألف لاجئ، معظمهم من دول الجوار من جنوب السودان. ولذلك يعني الشعب السوداني يصر علاقة تضامنية كبيرة مع دول في استضافة أعداد مغطرة من اللاجئين، وأيضا الدول التي تجاوره تظهر نفس هذا التضامن. ولذلك السودان يطور في استراتيجية إقليمية واستراتيجية قومية لوضع حلول مستدامة ودائمة لهذا. وهذه الحلول يعني تبنى على تطوير آليات يعني تنفيذية، وبالشراكة مع المجتمع الدولي من البنك الدولي والاتحاد الأوروبي والأمم المتحدة والعون الألماني والعون السويسري والعون العون يعني من الإيجاد ومن الدول العربية وكثير من الفاعلين، وبمساعدة المنظمة الهجرة العالمية. نحن في حكومة الفترة الانتقالية نسعى لوضع يعني إقامة قمة للإيجاد لوضع للتوافق على استراتيجية إقليمية فيما يلي هذه الحلول المستدامة، ووضع الاستراتيجية بعيدة المدى في هذا الشأن. نحن هذه الاستراتيجية تبنى على عديد من المبادئ المهمة جدا، وتستفيد من التجارب العالمية التي يعني ظللنا نناقشها على مستوى الخبراء وعلى مستوى الأكاديمية وعلى مستوى الفاعلين السياسيين وعلى مستوى منظمات المجتمع المدني والفعاليات النسوية والشبابية. وأنتم تعلمون دور الشباب ودور المرأة خاصة في تفعيل ثورة ديسمبر المجيدة. هذه المبادئ هي في مجملها يعني أقولها بالإنجليزية كل معظمها evidence based و right and needs based, government led and supported by the international community, participatory and community based, area based and context specific, development and peace oriented, while addressing remaining humanitarian needs, collective and comprehensive, conflict sensitive to social inequalities caused by gender, age, disability, and marginalization, and sustainable. So these are the basic principles which are guiding principles for extending the strategy for finding the durable solutions. And on this, we are working with our partners in order to develop it and maybe come to a joint declaration on a regional basis. This is also supported by the IGAD countries, which are Uganda, South Sudan, Somalia, Kenya, Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Djibouti. So we are working on this, and I would like also to extend our thanks also for giving us this opportunity, and we will be working on finding durable solutions. In Sudan, we have this problem of the majority of the IDPs are concentrated in the conflict-affected areas in Darfur and the two areas which are South Kordofan, Nuba Mountains, West Kordofan, and Blue Nile, in addition to other issues related to a protracted crisis for refugees in Eastern Sudan, in the Kassala and Red Sea and Gadaref states. Rather than that, also we have a huge problem also in the White Nile region. These are the areas where Sudan, if we count all this, will be the country which is having the heaviest burden on addressing these issues. The estimated number of this in Sudan may go beyond 5 million persons,
One
and
more minute, doctor. Sorry to
70.
interrupt.
Yes,
One more
thank
minute.
you. Good, and almost we have 70% of the, for example, the refugees in Sudan. 70% of them are not registered, so and are not dwelling in camps. So they are dispersed within the rural and urban and the rural outskirts, the urban outskirts and rural settings, and majority of them also are working, are not having access also to basic services of education and primary health care and so on. So these are huge challenges we are addressing, and we are trying to put
It seems that there is a connection issue with Dr. Muhammad. Dr. Muhammad, can you hear us? Okay. Unfortunately, since we lost Dr. Muhammad, maybe I will move to Dr. Hana Omar, and then we can receive follow-up comments from Dr. Muhammad on the follow-up session for comments. So, Dr. Hana Omar, the floor is yours.
شكرا أخي عثمان. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Thank you all. I'm glad to be here today to discuss this important topic, and I would like to talk about the durable solutions from a humanitarian perspective. We are focusing on the MENA region, and the last statistics indicates that more than 11 million people are internally displaced. And of course, the number is continuously increasing. We should also look at the economic impacts of displacement on communities, especially that displacement mostly occur in countries that are already struggling. And especially nowadays with the pandemic and COVID-19 and all these viruses that we hear about have exacerbated the situation. Therefore, KS Relief is keen to work closely with organizations, whether UN agencies, international, and NGOs on the ground to understand the situation and also to find solutions to create a better local integrations for IDPs in different countries. I would like to share some data with you. Like, for example, up to date, we have over 1,700 projects in 70 countries with the total cost over 5 billion in partnership with 144 organizations. And for IDPs specifically, we have dedicated 199 projects for over 100,000 beneficiaries with the total cost over 875 million US dollars in 19 countries. All these projects are provided to all, including IDPs, with no discriminations. And we make sure that our projects aim to contribute to improve the living conditions for IDPs. It's important to accommodate their needs based on their situations. And of course, as a humanitarian organizations, we are eager to have innovative and durable solutions, but it's still important to cover their humanitarian developmental needs until they are able to access livelihoods, education, and health services in their new locations. As a humanitarian organization, we focus to provide assistance to all beneficiaries, children, women, people with disabilities through different projects. If IDPs meet the criteria for any project that KS Relief provided, they will enjoy all the benefits of this project. We provide projects, for example, for child protection that includes mental health and psychosocial support for both hosting communities and the IDPs. And for women, we have some projects to empower and protect women by providing psychosocial support and socioeconomic projects, and especially for those who suffered from gender-based violence. And we make sure that they have access to education and health. these projects for all women who meet the criteria again, and some of these projects targeted orphans and their mothers. Finally, I would like to say that these humanitarian projects not helping only the IDPs, but also the hosting communities, because we improve the infrastructures for all, and we want to make a successful local integration for IDPs and to build a more sustainable community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hana, for your presentation and for the remarkable efforts of KS Relief. Now I will move to Mr. Sebastian Einsedel. Mr. Sebastian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. First off, I want to thank KS Relief and IOM for organizing this timely side event. It's really an honor to be included on this panel. Now, as we've heard year after my remarks, has been reaching new record highs, now counting 55 million around the world, as we've heard from our panel chair. Now, over 40% of these 55 million IDPs are living in the three sub-regions we're focusing on today, the MENA region, East Africa, and Horn of Africa, and this makes today's event all the more relevant. Indeed, 6 of the 10 countries around the world most affected by internal displacement are located here. Syria has 6.6 million IDPs, the highest number in the world, and half of Syria's pre-war population has been displaced at least once. Yemen now has over 4 million IDPs, making it the third largest displacement crisis in the world. And Somalia, Sudan, Ethiopia, South Sudan all count somewhere between 1.5 and 3 million IDPs. And we really need to pause here for just a moment to remember that hidden behind these cold and abstract figures lie innumerable individual stories of suffering and loss of a home, loss of livelihoods, loss of security, loss of education, loss of community. Now, humanitarian assistance with the help of generous donors is helping ensure the survival of millions of IDPs in these and other countries month after month. But we are very keenly aware that humanitarian assistance alone cannot help these displaced people regain a life of dignity and self-sufficiency. This requires the engagement of and collaboration with other actors, development actors, peace actors, climate adaptation and disaster risk reduction actors, and it requires leadership of national and local authorities in affected countries. Now, mobilizing joint action at scale across all these actors and across all these disciplines is a tall order. But we have no choice but to act, and there's increasing urgency to act. Indeed, the imperative to act and advance solutions for IDPs is becoming all the more pressing for at least 3 reasons. First, the ongoing COVID crisis and its economic knock-on effects are hitting displaced people particularly hard, exacerbating existing vulnerabilities. Indeed, nothing makes you more vulnerable to the impact of the pandemic than the mere fact of being displaced. And that's particularly true for displaced women and children who have suffered disproportionately from rampant abuse and interruption of schooling. Second, conflict drivers of displacement are increasingly intertwined with the effects of climate-related disasters. And these effects are bound to grow as the world continues to warm. Disasters triggered at least 1.5 million new internal displacements over the past decade in the MENA region alone. And in Syria, Yemen, Somalia, elsewhere, many IDPs fleeing conflict and violence have been pushed into secondary or tertiary displacement by floods and landslides. Third reason for urgency, in addition to the humanitarian tragedy caused by internal displacement, it imposes an increasingly heavy economic burden on displacement-affected countries and communities. IDMC, a leading NGO working on internal displacement, estimates that the global cost of 1 year of displacement was over $20 billion in 2020, with the MENA region alone accounting for some 40% of that. And in the case of Somalia, these costs amount to 20% of annual GDP, 20%. Now, the good news is that we have a confluence of rare opportunities to advance durable solutions for IDPs. We have increasingly seen displacement affected states stepping up their efforts in this domain, and Sudan's efforts outlined by Dr. Yassin just a few minutes ago is a good illustration of that. Across the UN system, we see enhanced commitment to assist affected states in advancing solutions, and that starts with the Secretary General, whose high-level panel on internal displacement will be issuing its report later this month, and this report will no doubt re-energize efforts towards displacement solutions. We have seen UN development system reform with the creation of empowered UN resident coordinators, which are key to drive one UN approaches to solutions across the humanitarian development divide. We have seen the OECD's Development Assistance Committee, or OECD DAC, adopt a binding commitment on the humanitarian development peace nexus, which offers the promise that donors might better support durable solutions programming through their funding systems. And we have also seen plenty of innovative practices on the ground in driving solutions, often in the form of partnerships between the UN and governments. Chair, with your permission, let me just use my last 30 seconds to just briefly reference a few of those practices, drawing from the sub-regions we're talking about today. The government-led multi-stakeholder durable solutions initiatives in Somalia and Ethiopia offer great models on how we can drive and incentivize whole of government and whole of UN approaches to the problem. In Iraq, we have seen UN humanitarian and development actors join forces in support of government efforts through the Durable Solutions Task Force, which is also spearheading promising area-based approaches. In Ethiopia, Iraq, and Somalia and elsewhere, we have seen durable solutions being integrated into the strategic priorities of sustainable development cooperation frameworks, which are the key development guidance documents that the UN follows and works on with countries. And in Sudan, we have seen a terrific multi-stakeholder IDP profiling endeavor that was conducted a couple of years ago in 2 areas in Darfur, which is the kind of joint analysis that is necessary for common approaches towards solutions across the humanitarian development divide. Now, these are all encouraging examples that have great potential for scale up and replication and should inspire us all to do more along the same lines. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Sebastian, for your presentation and for sharing those encouraging examples. Now, if you allow me, before moving forward, I would like to go back to Dr. Mohammed. Dr. Mohammed, you were interrupted. So please, if you would like to conclude your remarks, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. I think I had I'm ready to receive your Q&A, your questions, and I hope that I will answer. What I wanted to add, actually, it has been said by His Excellency Sebastian, so it is good that he came over the point which I wanted to stress. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we move to the second part, which will be 3 questions by the moderator to our panelists. And I will start immediately with the first question. So, esteemed colleagues, as we know, population impacted by displacement are the greatest resource in the pursuit of solutions. Beyond being consulted, they need to be empowered to own and drive recovery and resilience processes towards increasing self-resilience. My question is, what are some innovative approaches to localizing durable solutions efforts that you have seen to ensure the preferences of affected population are considered and support locally owned self-resilience? What is or where is improvement needed to improve our approaches towards ensuring IDPs are fully empowered towards self-resilience? And for this question, I would like to start with Dr. Hana from KS Relief, and after that, I will move to Dr. Mohammed, and then I move to Sebastian. So, Dr. Hana, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Uthman. This is an important question because we have to understand the situation and to provide the innovative approach. I would like to emphasize on the idea that IDPs must be part of the recovery and resilience to increase their self-reliance. To ensure proper and successful local integrations, we should understand their needs and peers, and also to understand the hosting communities and the capabilities on the ground. Most of the IDPs live in countries that suffer from different reasons. Therefore, the integration process should be done with the engagement of all parties and actors. This will help to design the best intervention that meets the needs of both sides. I would like to share an example. Last year, when the pandemic hit the world, and of course, you know that the education system was affected worldwide. So a project was designed by KS Relief and implemented in Yemen to make sure there is a continuity of education. What is unique about this project is we worked closely with the implementing partner to engage the Ministry of Education and also the community leaders. Why the community leaders? We want them to accept that they will have IDPs to share these facilities amid the pandemic, and also taking the consideration the preventative measures. So having all the actors and all parties in the solution helped us a lot to have a successful project. And when it comes to improvement needed, yes, we need to have initiatives, we need to have strategies. His Excellency Sebastian mentioned something really important. We need government to have their own strategies and framework. That will help us to have a better interventions from a humanitarian organization perspective. It's important to understand the situation and the needs. And this will help us to have the best interventions and to make sure that we have the measures to ensure the harmonious environment to enhance the coexistence between the hosting communities and also the IDPs. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answer. And I move immediately to Dr. Mohammed.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, Dr. Hana has answered the question, but let me add some reflection. Good coordination and good cooperation between the different actors to adopt holistic approaches is needed. That means we have to follow designated strategies in order to address this huge challenge. That means we have to have our legal framework. We in any country we have to comply with the comprehensive legal framework for protecting the refugees and also protecting the IDPs and working on their safe and dignified return to their areas of origin or their choice. And then also we have to put also in technical frameworks that stimulate and create in attractive environment for them by providing jointly services of education, health, good tap water, and other services. And this should be embedded into the national and regional strategies and plans, programs, projects of the countries, whether it is hosting country or it is a plan of a donor or a partner. Add to that also, we have also to take the issues of transboundary nature related to security and sanitary. We have to learn from the experience of this COVID-19 and maybe other pandemic which may arise in the future. This will benefit because if a refugee or IDP is influenced then or affected by a natural disaster or even pandemic, then this effect will have a transboundary effect. So we have to be innovative in finding solutions. We have to work closely in close coordination and cooperation to find win-win solutions, and the solution should be durable, sustainable, taking into consideration the lessons learned and the experience of other environment or other territories. I will limit myself to this, and maybe thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the very useful information. And I move to Mr. Sebastian to conclude the remarks on question 1.
Well, thank you so much. I very much agree with the points made by Dr. Yassin, Dr. Omar. Let me just highlight what I think are 2 additional elements that we need to get right when it comes to localizing durable solutions and empowering IDPs. First, it's pretty basic, but pretty important. It's key that IDPs are more systematically consulted on what they want and what they need most. Now, the Secretary General's high-level panel that I've referenced before, high-level panel on internal displacement, conducted consultations with some 12,500 IDPs in 20-something countries. And among the key findings of these consultations were that many of these IDPs don't feel heard by either their governments or response organizations. And that's particularly true for those IDPs who are at the highest risk of being excluded: women, children, indigenous people, persons with disabilities, LGBTI persons, and the elderly. But of course, listening more carefully to what IDPs want and need is not enough. Both governments and international responders also need to do better in acting upon what they hear and involve IDPs and their host communities in decision-making on their fates, ideally through community-based planning processes. Now, the second point I want to make here is on funding. If you want to localize solutions, you need to ensure that local authorities, local NGOs, and other local responders have the money to advance solutions. So it's important that both national governments and donors provide funding as locally as possible. And one of the best ways to ensure that funding responds to the preferences of local populations, including IDPs, is of course to provide them with direct cash assistance, because they know best what they need most. Now, we've made some progress on more localized funding and cash since donors committed to both in the 2016 Grand Bargain, but I think it's fair to say that there remains still some room for improvement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And if you allow me now, I will move to the second question. As we know, the humanitarian development and peace triple nexus approaches calls for a new way of working that transcends traditional silos, divides, reinforces national and local systems, and anticipates crisis by working forward and towards collective outcomes. How can durable solutions efforts be linked to the triple nexus in a way centered on addressing the drivers of displacement? And for this, I would like to start with you, Sebastian, based on your experience, if you can give us some information or some thoughts on this in this regard. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Othman. Let me start off with a more general comment. I think durable solutions is not only the field most in need of collaboration across the humanitarian, development, and peace-building silos, but also the area most conducive to realize that collaboration, to realize nexus approaches. While this whole nexus concept and language can be quite abstract and fuzzy, even to practitioners, it becomes really tangible and concrete when you talk about durable solutions to displacement, where it becomes really clear to all key actors involved, humanitarian, development, peace building, etc., that no progress can be made until and unless they join forces. Now, but having them join forces is really difficult. They're separate communities, they speak different languages, they follow different incentives, they also follow different pots of money. And that's why any effort to rally humanitarian development and peace building actors at country level behind common approaches on durable solutions really needs to start with a joint analysis and assessment effort that provides the basis for a common vision and complementary programming among all these actors. Now, at the UN resident coordinators have a wonderful tool to advance such joint analysis in the form of common country assessments that are conducted every few years in every country and are reviewed annually. And these common country assessments, or CCAs as they're called in UN parlance, they're meant to inform both the broad development and humanitarian strategies. Now, there's a lot of potential in these CCAs, but humanitarians are often not sufficiently engaged, and internal displacement is not always adequately featured in them. And I think we still have some way to go to make them truly collective and to make most out of them with an eye to durable solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I can move now to Mr. Ali.
Yes, thank you. That just for the clarifications from the Dr. Yassine and also in Dr. Hannah regarding their projects and activities, as well as to our colleague Sebastian. I will deliver some information in Arabic, since it's prepared in Arabic in back in the office, so it will be somehow easier to be delivered. And just I shared as well with the colleagues in the translation department. حاليا الإقليم بالمناسبة إقليم كردستان إقليم فيدرالي صغير يقع في شمال العراق، في محافظات 4: أربيل ودهوك والسليمانية ومحافظة حلبشة الشهيدة التي قصفت بالأسلحة الكيميائية من قبل النظام البعثي البائد في سنة 88. فكردستان إقليم يقع في شمال العراق. نسمة الإقليم 6 ملايين شخص، ويستضيف الإقليم حاليا قرابة 1,000,000 نازح ولاجئ مختلفين في مختلف المناطق. اللاجئون السوريون يشكلون النسبة الأكبر، وأيضا بعض إخواننا من السودان، وأيضا بعض الفلسطينيين، وأيضا إيرانيين وأتراك، وأيضا يوجد قرابة 664,237 شخصا مسجلين رسميا كنازحين في إقليم كردستان، موزعون على 25 مخيما في محافظات أربيل ودهوك والسليمانية. لكي أكون واضح، نسبة 24 منهم يعيشون في 25 مخيما في محافظات الإقليم. يوجد 15 مخيم فقط في محافظة دهوك، و6 مخيم في محافظة أربيل، و4 مخيمات في محافظة السليمانية. أود أن أكون صريحا معكم، يوجد لدينا بعض الأماكن نسبة النازحين أكثر من نسبة السكان الأصليين للمنطقة. ومن الجدير بالذكر أن حكومة إقليم كردستان عن طريق مركز تنسيق الأزمات المشترك في وزارة الداخلية مستمرة بالتنسيق والتعاون مع جميع الشركاء الدوليين والمحليين، ومن ضمنها الأمم المتحدة، لتوفير وتأمين المستلزمات الحياتية الضرورية للنازحين المحليين وأيضا للاجئين، وخاصة في ظل الظروف الصحية الراهنة وتفشي فيروس الكورونا المستجد، حيث يتطلب المرحلة بذل جهود أكثر من أجل الحفاظ على حياة النازحين. وهذه المسؤولية مسؤولية مشتركة، لابد لنا التعاون المشترك والتنسيق مع الجهات الفاعلة في الاستجابة الإنسانية لتجاوز المرحلة. النقطة فيما يتعلق بالنزوح العكسي، نشهد بين حين وآخر عندما تضطر الأمور في العراق نشهد النزوح العكسي والذي يسمى ب reverse displacement. فقط في الشهرين الماضيين استقبلنا أكثر من 200 عائلة بمعدل 875 شخص أتوا إلى مخيمات إقليم كردستان. نحن صراحة في حين نتكلم عن الدولة بالسوليوشن مستدامة، لكن لحد الآن أسباب التي أدى إلى نزوح النازحين لحد الآن أسباب موجودة. لابد لنا أن نحل الأسباب وأيضا نأتي إلى الحلول. أود يعني أن أشير على سياسة حكومة الإقليم، سياسة واضحة لجميع الشركاء الدوليين وأيضا لجميع يعني الشركاء المحليين أيضا، هي دعم وتشجيع وتسهيل العودة الطوعية لجميع النازحين بدون استثناء. يعني من وجهة نظرنا نرى أن الحل الدائم هي كيفية مساعدة النازحين لكي يرجعوا إلى مناطقهم الأصلية ويبدأوا حياتهم مرة ثانية. وفي هذا الإطار بذلنا جهود كبيرة وقمنا بتسهيل عملية عودة لأكثر من 800,000 شخص خلال السنوات الماضية إلى مناطقهم الأصلية الذين نزحوا إلى إقليم كردستان جراء الأحداث ما بعد 2014 ويعني العمليات العسكرية التي شهدت في بعض المناطق مثل موصل وأنبار وفلوجة والمناطق التي احتلت من قبل ما يسمى بداعش. أكتفي هنا وأيضا لدينا مشاركات أخرى إن شاء الله، ويعني إذا كان هناك أي سؤال يختص بملف النازحين بشكل خاص أو اللاجئين بشكل عام في إقليم كردستان إن توفرت لدي المعلومات سأجاوبها، وإلا سأستعين بأصدقائي لكي يرسلوا الإجابة ونقدمه لحضراتكم. شكرا جزيلا.
شكرا جزيلا سيد علي. دكتور محمد تفضل.
Yes, shukran. Thank you very much. Actually, the triple nexus is very important and formidable approach, linking together or passing from merely humanitarian interventions, but rather focusing on development and peace. But when we talk about development and peace, we have to consider very important, what I can say is 3S, that we have to focus on elements of sustainability for this sustainability of the development and sustainability of the peace itself, because these will be addressing the root causes of the internal displacement and fleeing the borders and causing problems of refugees and depriving people from their assets and territories. The other S is the solidarity. Solidarity between solidaristic approach between the public and private sector and the international community, donors, civil society organizations. So if they adopt a solidaristic approach, then this will be helping element in addressing the root causes and prevailing or availing a sustainable or durable solution. The third element is seriousness. When I say seriousness, that means what we have to pass from just extending strategies and putting plans, but go seriously into implementation and putting plans of actions which are measurable and maybe measurable and to at least have transparency in this and accountability to account also the government, and at the same time also the affected communities should see some seriousness from the actors, from the different actors, and they should be consulted. These are few reflections on this, and also we have also to consider developing the resilience of the local communities and the hosting communities in order to avoid also conflicting interest between the hosting communities and the refugees or the IDPs because of the scarcity of the resources, and this may generate also secondary or tertiary conflicts between the people who will flee from their were forced to flee from their territories of origin or countries of origin. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. And now I move to my third and last question for this session. Integrating governments into the resolution of displacement is critical to the sustainability of the response and the achievement of sustainable and durable solutions. So from your experience, How can regional actors support the strengthening of government capacities? And what are some good practices you've witnessed? In your observation, what more can be done in terms of approaches, specific interventions, or the like to reinforce capacities at national and local levels, to accelerate the provision of sustainable, durable solutions in a consistent manner? And here I would like first to hear from Dr. Hannah, and after that I will move to Dr. Mohammed and then Mr. Ali. So Dr. Hannah, the floor is yours.
Shukran, Akhi Uthman. Actually, I will start from the second question because I would like to reiterate exactly what the esteemed guest already mentioned, Dr. Mohammed and His Excellency Sebastian and my colleague Ali, because we can't do anything if we don't coordinate the efforts. All the actors are important. We have to find ways to contribute together. We should coordinate to address first the root causes and then to find the durable solutions. And this will help us a lot because for us from a humanitarian perspective, we will work on projects, but we can't work alone. We need strategies, we need framework that we can to try to find the best intervention that meet the needs. So in case relief, we are aware that it's vital to build the capacity, whether for government or organization, by providing training and technologies in order to improve the performance and services. This will allow them to be ready for situations, including displacement. I would like to share one example. For example, in Somalia, we built the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management capacity to improve the performance and services by supporting the emergency and management centers, and also by providing tools and technologies for timely interventions and proper early warning system. This intervention for the government, but it accommodates the government to meet any needs, to allow them to be prepared for any situations, including the displacement. And KS Relief also adds another aspect. We need to build the capacity of the organization. We try in different projects to have the element of capacity building. For example, in the mine, in the landmine clearance project in Yemen, we worked to clear the landmine and also to train locals to clear the mines because we need them to be in a safe place. Their security and safety is important. And another project is to have the artificial limbs. Through 4 centers in Yemen, KS Relief provide high quality limbs, but also we make sure that we train locals to manufacture these devices and also to build the health institutions' capacity to ensure the continuity of the services. Another example that I would like to share is the volunteer campaigns. We have campaigns throughout the years to do some interventions for health, for education, psychosocial support, and food securities for IDPs and for the hosting communities. During these campaigns, some campaigns focus to train locals because it's important to make advantage of these projects to train the capacity, to build the capacity and to train locals. This will help them to be more resilient. They will help them to be more capable to meet their needs and also to find ways to live in a better living conditions. So I think it's really important to build the capacities for both, and this will help the IDPs to feel more comfortable and help the hosting communities to welcome the IDP, because it's from both sides. So we try from a humanitarian perspective to work closely with both sides in order to make sure that we have a successful local integration.
Thank you very much. I will move to Mr. Ali.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification, and thank you for the comment from the Dr. Hannah. I'm totally agree with you. Just if we, I'm talking on the contextual situation of the Kurdistan region. You know, if we be successful in cutting the roots of the causes and the problems that lead the people to be IDPs, then we will be successful in this process. For more instance, back in my office in the JCC, we do a survey just 1 year ago. In the camps of the IDPs in the Kurdistan region, 80% of them, they are willing to return back to their own places. They want to go back to their own places. They have their heritage there. They have their own properties there. They have their own culture there, education. Some of the areas have been, hundreds of years that are people living there. But after the 2003, the Iraqi previous regime collapsed, then the sectarian war in Iraq in 2005, 2006, then the ISIL war in 2014. All these problems lead the people to flee from their own places and to come to the region or to other places. We believe that first, until now, some of the areas after the process of liberation, the military process successfully is done, but still the infrastructure of the area is not rehabilitated, rebuilt again. So it's very important to work in the civilian side. Some of the areas need is demining. Some of the areas need is the life basic services, municipality services, health services, education services, traffic, school, and those multifunctional livelihood approach. Then it's very important to find to secure a job for those people when they return back to their own places, because now most of the people inside the camps, they are receiving food baskets, hygiene kits from the international community organizations, from the local organizations, sometimes from the Ministry of Migration and Displacement in Baghdad, sometimes from our department. So they are depending on the humanitarian assistance. If they return back to their own places, we have to find a sustainable work and also opportunity to job to continue their life. One of the most important issues, there is in some areas, especially in the northeastern part of the country, there is some sectarian conflict. As a government, I want to be far away from using some sensitive words, but we have to be in some aspects as well. Iraq is running by majority of Shia community, while there is another community called Sunni community. There is some conflict between these two elites in the country. So one of the most problem is there is some sectarian conflict, which is the role of the international community is that how to help the Iraqi government to overcome this problem, to solve the problem, pave the way, and accelerate the process of the people to return back to their people, dignified and also voluntarily.
Thank you very much. And I move to Dr. Mohammed, followed by Sebastian to conclude the comments on this question. Dr. Mohammed, the floor is yours.
I think Mr. Ahmed and Hannah, they answered this question thoroughly. But I would like also to interest in the regional approaches not to lose the focus also of the specific context of each territory where IDPs or refugees are present, and adapt the solutions and maybe find innovative way just to accelerate finding the solutions. We need accelerators. Also in provision of livelihood projects, which enable these IDPs who are in protracted conditions to find alternative ways to go back voluntarily to their either territories of origin or alternative environments, because just keeping people into camps when the causes or the root causes of their displacement are over is not fair. Add to that also, we have to find also legal framework, because also in Sudan we have refugees for decades and decades. Therefore, we have in Sudan we have to harmonize our legal framework, and we have also to amalgamate the different initiatives working on the same issues because there's duplication or overlapping of efforts between which I noticed between efforts of certain actors or certain regional organizations and other multilateral organizations. Add to that also, we have also to align the national institutions working on issues of IDPs or refugees or affected communities, and we have to harmonize their policies, their plans, in order to go hand in hand with the global compact on the refugees and what is deliberated in the global forum for the refugees and the IDPs and so on. Sudan is coming from a different era, and now it is just launching itself from not from scratch, but from where it has been. And hopefully we will find the accelerators in order to ameliorate the conditions of the IDPs and find them dignified, safe return, and avail the security for them in order to protect them from the fear and want which is affecting their lives. And also we have also to catch up for Sudan, we have to catch up with the ongoing processes of the census and the preparation for the elections. We don't want the refugees and IDPs to find themselves again to be counted in the camps. It is better that we accelerate in the implementation of Juba Peace Agreement and accelerate also and facilitating the way for the refugees to come back to their country, since the root causes or the regime which cause their abandonment of their territories is over. So it will be also a joint task between us in the national government and the international partners and communities, and also the King Salman Center Relief also. I think it will play a role in that. Maybe also like building villages or building or providing livelihood projects, rehabilitating wells on water points, or providing energy, or building primary health sanitary centers. All these facilities will help these people to go back to safe lands and safe territories. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Mr. Sebastian, over to you.
Thank you so much. Now, I thought, given that my colleagues focused a little more on the national dimension, but your question also included a reference to what regional actors can do to support governments. Let me maybe just focus on that in the interest of time. And I think the key potential of regional actors lies really in incentivizing the political will of governments to address internal displacements by developing and adopting normative and policy frameworks, and also serving as a forum for peer-to-peer, state-to-state exchanges. Now, with respect to normative frameworks, Africa is, of course, at the forefront with the AU's Kampala Convention, and a few years before at sub-regional level, the Great Lakes IDP Protocol. And these are so far the only legally binding international instruments on internal displacement. But we know that states that domesticate such regional commitments into national law and policy tend to have a better track record in addressing displacement. So it would be encouraging to see other regions follow suit. We have also seen regional actors serve as really fruitful fora for peer-to-peer exchanges. I think Dr. Yassin mentioned IGAD before. We've seen IGAD in 2019 hosting a regional exchange where Somali officials, based on their experience with their own durable solutions initiative, inspired and informed the design of the Ethiopian Durable Solutions Initiative. We have seen similar exchanges a few years ago between Colombia and Honduras. In this case, it was facilitated by UNHCR, allowing the Colombian government's land restitution unit to inform the development of Honduras's own legal and institutional frameworks to register IDPs, abandoned property. And an example from the Pacific Island Forum developed a framework for resilient development in the Pacific, which calls on member states to develop integrated national strategies on climate change and disaster-related relocation. And implementation of these strategies, and it's interesting, is supported by technical working groups that brings together regional organizations, governments, researchers, experts, development partners, civil society, etc., where they exchange lessons, research, and opportunities for cooperation. And I think these are all inspiring examples of the very important things that regional actors can do to advance this agenda. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for bringing the global perspective to this discussion. If you allow me, I have 3 questions from the audience. So I will read the questions, then please feel free to raise your hand to answer those questions. And I will start by reading the 3 questions. The first question is in Arabic. So نحن في منظمة الوابل الصيب للتنمية البشرية نبدي رغبتنا الشديدة في أن نكون جزءا من العمليات الأساسية لإيجاد الحلول الدائمة لمشكلة اللجوء في العالم أجمع وبالأخص في السودان. ما هي الآليات لتحقيق ذلك? This question is from Mr. Khalid Haj. The second question is in English, and this is from Dr. Ahmed Sengendo. Has there been a situation where IDPs have turned into a blessing for the host community to the extent that the host community has facilitated local integration of IDPs? And the third question is from Mr. Abdul Qawi Saif. I think it is important to look for the preparation of the areas of IDPs origin. Are they ready to welcome the IDPs back? Are they safe for return or still contaminated with landmines? Are the basic services in place? So a question related to the conditions in the areas of returns or the areas of origin for the IDPs. So those are the 3 questions we have by the audience, and please feel free to raise your hand, or please raise your hand if you would like to answer any of those 3 questions. Yes, please, Mr. Ali.
Just I would like to answer the third question regarding the does the area of origin now is safe to IDPs to return back? If there is contamination, if there is lab basic services, I will reply, and I will answer this question in our context picture, in our contextual situation of Iraq and the Kurdistan region. One of the main aim behind preventing people from returning back to their own places is that the areas of origin is not ready to receive them because of different and multi-sectorial problems. The first one is the contamination. Some of the areas still it needs demining process, which is long-term demining process, and some of the areas or areas afterward communities. So it needs both of cleaning the areas, then the social cohesion as well. Regarding the public services, most of the infrastructures in those areas has been destroyed, especially after the military process of liberation in 2016-2017 by the Iraqi forces and also by the international coalitions. So, and then after that, paving the way how we can let those people to return back, and also sustainable, solutions for them, not just like a temporary solutions, just letting them to return back. Then after a while, they will be IDPs as a reverse displacement. Secondly, so according to our perspective, still the areas is in a huge need to be clear, and also to be ready to receive those people in providing public services, in security issues, in demining process, and also in social cohesion as well. And some of the areas need some kind of transitional justice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have a question. We have the two other questions. So
yes,
please, Dr. Hannah.
Thank you, Akhi Uthman. Regarding the question from Dr. Ahmed, if there is an incident or an example, if the IDPs can be a blessing for the host communities, I would like to share two examples. First, for the sanitation, there was a project to provide sanitation for the IDP camps and health facilities, and also to provide potable water and the wastewater management, wastewater removal management. So indirectly, it helps the host communities because first, there was no burden. These IDPs were independent, they have their own facilities, and it helps also to prevent any epidemic from viruses and because of the water. So this project was successful to make sure that there was a harmony between the hosting communities and the IDPs. Another example for women, there was a project to have vocational training for women and psychosocial support. The project was designed for women in the IDPs camps, but we welcomed women from the hosting communities. So when we measured the impact of this project, it was very beneficial for both, because if the project wasn't there, we couldn't reach to those women in the hosting communities. So their services were equal for both, for the IDPs and for the hosting communities. And we saw that both sides got all the benefits from the services, especially when it comes to vocational training. Most of these hosting communities are vulnerable communities already. So having the projects to build their capacity will help them to be independent. So this was also an idea to indirectly build the cultural competence and also to build more understanding between the hosting communities and IDPs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Mohammed, would you like to answer, I would say, the first question, since it's talking about Sudan? And if you allow me, I would like to also add one more question because we're running out of time. So I will read very quickly, and it's in Arabic also. خلال بحثي البسيط عن الملاجئ المناسبة والمتطورة والتي تعزز صحة الفرد النفسية والجسدية، وجدت أن هناك بعض المعوقات التي توضع في البحث والتطوير في هذا المجال. لماذا وما هي المساهمات الموجودة في هذا المجال وطرق حلها؟ هذا هو السؤال الأخير. مع الأسف لم نستطع الإجابة عن كافة الأسئلة. Unfortunately, we were not able to reply to all the questions, but this will be also the last question, which is directly related to the shelter provided for IDPs and why there is a limited investment in research and development in relation to shelter that also takes into consideration the mental health and the requirements for the IDPs. So I start immediately with Dr. Mohammed. Dr. Ali, your hand is still up, so if you still need the floor. Okay, and so if you allow me, I can start with Dr. Mohammed, and maybe if Mr. Sebastian has any concluding remarks on the shelter issue, and then we close this part. Please, Dr. Mohammed.
Okay, thank you very much. I know about the question on the mental health and socio-psycho approach in supporting the IDPs and refugees is very important. But here in the Sudanese context, the IDPs camp are very dilapidated infrastructures. So they are just merely shelter with very basic services of potable water and maybe very poor ratios of food. So it is just the elements of sustaining the life of these IDPs and the refugees. It's not like that sophisticated camps which we find in the developing countries, where also we passed part of our life there during our stay abroad in the diaspora. So the context specificity of Sudan is different, but allow me just to stress on something, that sometimes the refugees, when or the IDPs, when they remain in certain camps, they develop some relationship with the surrounding environment. So they start to settle and maybe find some lands around their camps, and they start to cultivate. So this affirms that the return should be voluntary. So there is it shouldn't be a forced return. If this principle is applied, we have to go in availing a conducive and better improving the environment, do some sort of rural planning, not urban planning, but rural planning, in order to improve the living conditions and start providing the basic services. So maybe this can help will help them concretely. Add to that also, sometimes also there are some problems related to the environment, which somebody before commented, if it is ready for the refugees or IDPs to come back. We have to work in order to improve the situation in the territories of origin, since the causes of the war or the conflict or the environmental disaster or natural disaster or flood are no longer there. We have to work in order to make the return voluntary, and also to preserve the dignity of the people who are going back to their territories. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed, and thank you for mentioning the issue of the importance of the voluntarity of the return, and also the conditions that need to be in place before the return. If you allow me now, anybody has further comments on the questions? If not, since we're running out of time, I would like to ask our panelists if they have any final remarks, to mention that in 1 minute. And if there are no remarks, I will move to the next part. Okay, since there are no remarks, first
allow me to reiterate my thanks to all of you, to the King Salman Relief Center, and to the United Nations, the General Assembly, and above all also to the audience. And we are looking forward to work with all of you here, with your respective institutions, and thank you very much.
I would like to thank our panelists for the very rich discussion and all the information and the insights they have provided. Thank you very much, Mr. Ali, Dr. Hana, Dr. Mohammed, and Mr. Sebastian, for all your contributions. Thank you very much for being with us in this event. And if you allow me now, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Mohammed Al-Atiq to give us some comments on the session before I just read the closing remarks at the end. So, Mr. Mohammed, the floor is yours.
Thank you. At the end of this session, I just would like to emphasize once again on the importance of the cooperation and between governments, international organizations, NGOs, to reach greater understanding of refugees and IDPs' needs, and to work together in finding the best solutions and work plans that solve as much as we can these problems. I also want to extend my thanks to thank King Salman Relief and IOM for organizing this important event, and also extend my thanks to all colleagues who give important insights about their experiences and solutions that they see as a good approach for a good solutions to approach this problem. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to delegate with you in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. And for our panelists and attendants, I would like to apologize that we may go maybe 5 minutes beyond schedule, but you know the topic is very rich and discussion was important. I would also like to apologize if we missed to answer any of the questions due to the limited time we had for this event. Thank you for your contribution, and if you allow me just to provide few remarks at the end. So in closing, I want to extend heartfelt thanks to all our panelists and audience members for their insightful remarks about the experiences in the identification and delivery of durable solutions from different contexts. The discussion clearly illustrates that protracted displacement is becoming more challenging to address because of a variety of dynamic and often compound drivers. While efforts to address the needs of IDPs are stretched beyond our collective capacities to respond, from ongoing conflict and violence and fragility to increased climate variability, triggering devastating flooding, drought, and health pandemics. The world and the solutions to displacement are more challenging and complex than ever before. Members of the international community are focusing their efforts on achieving durable solutions for IDPs, so they no longer have any assistance and protection needs and are able to enjoy their human rights without discrimination. Today, we have heard of innovative responses that merit further study. Within these efforts, we must identify how to transfer knowledge and experiences of displacement situations, while recognizing the need to reflect and adapt to often highly localized dynamics in our response. We see that displacement, in most cases, is resolved through gradual, incremental process centered on restoration of rights and reduction of displacement-caused vulnerabilities. However, implementing these solutions necessitate a whole of society approach that, including efforts that respond to the impacts of protracted displacement on host communities and leverage local mobility dynamics in sites of displacement to support increased self-resilience for all. Within this point, it is clear population impacted by displacement are the greatest resource in the pursuit of solutions. Beyond being consulted, they need to be empowered to own and drive recovery and resilience processes. Within our approaches to sustainably resolve displacement, we must develop systems that enable us to listen and to empower affected population through the design, implementation, and evaluation of our policies and interventions. It is clear we are facing global and regional megatrends with a potential of displacement in even greater numbers. We must remain focused and ensure we are using shrinking resources, both financial and human, to respond effectively and efficiently to evolving displacement trends. We find ourselves at crossroads. We have the opportunity to choose the path towards creating a world of prosperity, stability, and dignity for all. But to achieve this, we must commit to innovative partnerships. It is clear from the discussion today that no single actor can resolve conflict or displacement or single-handedly attain sustainable peace and development. And thus, dignity for all of the operationalizing the HDPN is more critical than ever. Realizing the commitments that we have been made that requires meaningful and constructive changes in the way we work. I look forward to continuous efforts from KS Relief, IOM, and all partners and humanitarian actors in engaging all stakeholders in the search of a range of durable solutions centered on government ownership, collaboration, and inclusion of IDP preferences in the planning and execution process. At the end, please allow me also to thank our interpreters for being with us today and the wonderful teams from IOM and KS Relief. Definitely thank our panelists and our appreciation also to the Saudi mission to the UN. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for being with us and wish you all a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.